Let's cut the fluff. Shedeur Sanders didn't just express frustration. He torched the house. Calmly, strategically, and with the kind of surgical precision that only comes from someone who's had enough, but still wants the world to know exactly why. Because this wasn't some tantrum. This wasn't a cryptic Instagram story or some vague tweet with an hourglass emoji. No. This was a clear, decisive, calculated unraveling of everything going wrong inside the Cleveland Browns organization.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
And Shedeur? He didn't flinch. He spoke. And when he spoke, it was the kind of calm that should send chills down every hallway in that franchise's facility. The kind of calm that says, I've tried. I've waited. I've played the game. And now, I'm out. Let's get to the root of it. From the start, Shedeur wasn't treated like a player with generational upside. He wasn't treated like someone with sky-high IQ, elite footwork, and the kind of mechanics quarterbacks usually don't master until their third NFL season. No, he was treated like a marketing stunt. Dion's son. Hype machine. Unproven. Pick your narrative. Never mind that the tape showed otherwise. Never mind that he was outplaying his peers in scrimmages. Never mind that he was running drills like he'd already memorized the playbook in 2 languages. In Cleveland? That wasn't enough. They didn't want Shedeur the quarterback. They wanted Shedeur the headline. And now, they're choking on the smoke from the fire they lit. Because here's what really happened. Beneath the preseason reports, behind the coach speak, beyond the he's developing deflections, Shedeur Sanders was never going to be allowed to thrive in Cleveland. Not because he wasn't good enough, but because he wasn't controllable enough. Think about it. You're a young QB lighting it up in camp. You've got veterans respecting you. Fans buying your jersey. Teammates pulling you aside after practice to ask about reads and formations. And then come game day, you're sidelined. On purpose. Not because of scheme. Not because of development. But because the coach wants to protect his process. A process that somehow involves giving you waterboy reps while less talented quarterbacks throw pick sixes into the wind. If you're Shedeur, how long do you smile and nod before calling it what it is? Sabotage. Because that's what this was. A slow burn. A subtle erasure. The kind of organizational politics that ruins players before they ever get a chance to breathe. And Shedeur? He saw it. And instead of playing the victim, he did something smarter. He made it public. He made sure the world knew, I'm not crazy. I'm not bitter. I'm just done. And just like that, the league took notice. Let's talk about the New York Giants for a second. Oh, they're circling. Don't get it twisted. They've got a fan base desperate for a spark. A roster with enough defensive firepower to compete. If they can find a quarterback who actually understands the assignment. Daniel Jones? Been there. Tyrod Taylor? Been there. They need something fresh. Something real. And Shedeur? He's looking real appealing right about now. The Giants don't just want him, they're watching how he handles this mess. And let me tell you, his composure is part of the pitch. He hasn't blown up on social media. He hasn't trashed the organization. He's done what elite QBs do when the pocket collapses. Kept his eyes downfield. Now let's talk about Cleveland's side of this. Because while the Giants are drafting trade proposals, the Browns are drafting apologies. To sponsors. To fans. To the locker room. Because this isn't just a quarterback situation. This is a culture collapse. Every team has its internal drama. But not every team lets that drama fester until your best young talent walks out the door mid-rookie contract. You know who lets that happen? Franchises with no identity. Franchises clinging to outdated philosophies, hiding behind the excuse of structure, while the building's on fire. Kevin Stefanski? He's got a clipboard in one hand and a credibility crisis in the other. Because this wasn't just a player disagreement. This was philosophical failure. The failure to evolve. The failure to recognize talent. The failure to put winning above politics. And now, it's all blowing up in real time. Let's talk fallout. Ticket sales? Down. Sponsorship talks? On ice. Player morale? In the toilet. And the fan base? Oh, they're not just angry, they're embarrassed. Because Cleveland didn't just lose a player. They lost the only glimmer of future hope they had under center. And for what? To protect this system that hasn't produced a playoff win since your mom still used a BlackBerry? To protect a coach who'd rather die by stubbornness than live by adjustment? Come on. This isn't the 2000s. This isn't the age of know your role. This is modern football, A league where talent talks and players with vision, charisma, and actual production are worth more than coach-favored game managers who peaked in a 7-on-7 drill in June. And what did Shedeur do wrong? He showed up. He worked hard. He outperformed. And they punished him for it. So now he's taking his future elsewhere. And can you blame him? He's not doing this out of spite. He's doing this because his career isn't a PR exercise. It's not a backup plan. It's the plan. And Cleveland? They were never part of it. Let's zoom out for a second. Because this whole saga? It's a microcosm of the modern NFL. Old guard franchises refusing to adapt. Coaches hiding behind schemes instead of facing reality. Players taking control of their own narratives. This isn't about one team. This is about the future of the league. Where do young quarterbacks want to go? Where they're developed. Where they're respected. Where politics don't trump performance. And Cleveland? Right now they're the cautionary tale. The franchise everyone looks at and says, yeah, let's not do what they just did. Meanwhile, Shedeur's reps are already having conversations behind closed doors. Not because he's running from adversity, but because he's building a legacy. One that doesn't include being mishandled, marginalized, or muted. He's not asking for special treatment. He's asking for a real shot. And guess what? He's going to get it. Because whether it's New York, Atlanta, Pittsburgh, or some other team that actually values the modern quarterback blueprint, Shedeur is going to land somewhere and take over. And when he does, Cleveland will be left in the rearview mirror, watching on Sunday night as the quarterback they never believed in becomes the face of someone else's franchise. And all they'll have are regrets, and another spot at the bottom of the standings. So tell me, where do you want to see Shedeur go? Is New York the right fit? Is there another team out there bold enough to build around him the way Cleveland couldn't? Drop it in the comments. Let the debate begin. And if you're watching this saga unfold like the greatest quarterback drama since Aaron Rodgers' spiritual awakening in a dark room, you already know what to do. Subscribe. Because the Shedeur Sanders Show? It's leaving Cleveland. And the next episode? Is going to be must-see TV. Let's keep it real. By the time Shedeur Sanders officially steps out of Cleveland, it won't be a quiet exit. It'll be a statement. Because when a quarterback with this much visibility, pedigree, and straight-up juice decides he's done with a franchise, that's not just a move. That's a moment. A cultural flashpoint. A 10-second clip that lives rent-free in NFL highlight reels for years. And the Browns? They'll be forced to watch it all unfold from the sidelines, again. Let's paint the picture. Shedeur walks into his new team's facility, cameras flashing, fans chanting, media buzzing. He's rocking a fresh jersey, tailored suit, probably some Prime X Louis Vuitton collab jacket, looking every bit like a future face of the league. And during the press conference, he says something calm, classy, but just pointed enough to make the headlines write themselves. I'm just happy to be somewhere that values what I bring to the table. Boom. That's not just shade. That's sun eclipse energy. That's a verbal mic drop wrapped in maturity. Because Shedeur isn't going to drag Cleveland through the mud. He doesn't need to. Their actions already did the dragging for him. But back to the Browns. Because the unraveling? It's not just coming, it's already here. You think this ends with Shedeur leaving? Oh no. It's only starting there. Once he's gone, the players who liked him, the young receivers who caught balls from him in practice, the linemen who respected his poise in the pocket, they start questioning leadership. Why wasn't he given a chance? What's the message here? Who's next? The locker room fractures. Then come the interviews. The anonymous sources. The former staffers turned podcast guests dropping little behind-the-scenes bombs. We knew Shedeur was ready. Everybody in the building knew. But coach had his mind made up. And suddenly? It's not just a quarterback dispute. It's a leadership crisis. Front office starts scrambling. PR reps are doing damage control on a 24-hour cycle. Ownership is sitting in emergency meetings trying to figure out how to stop season ticket holders from canceling their packages and calling into talk radio shows with Fire Stefanski takes. And maybe that's what it takes. Maybe Shedeur leaving is the catalyst that finally forces Cleveland to confront the rot inside its system. Because when your most promising player in decades, a guy with NFL bloodlines, an elite mind for the game, and a national spotlight, decides you're not worth the struggle, you don't get to blame the media, or the fans, or distractions. You've got to look in the mirror. And while Cleveland's over there scrambling to save face Shedeur, he's putting on the pads in a new city, new playbook, new locker room, new fanbase that's already bought in. And here's the real kicker, he's gonna ball out. Not just because he wants to prove Cleveland wrong, though let's be honest, that chip on his shoulder is now diamond cut, but because that's what he does. You don't come up under Deion Sanders and not understand how to handle pressure. You don't light it up at Jackson State and Colorado and then fold in the pros. That's not his story. That's not how this ends. This ends with Shedeur doing what he was always destined to do, take over. And the NFL is going to feel that shift. You'll see the coverage change. Suddenly all those analysts who were concerned about him will start pretending they believed all along. You know how it goes. We always said he had the tools, he just needed the right system. Please. These are the same people who downplayed his reads, questioned his mechanics, and called him media hype, while other rookies were being anointed as franchise saviors for completing 12-yard outs in preseason. But now that Shedeur's on a team that actually believes in him, now that he's slinging dimes and conducting 2-minute drills like he's got a PhD in poise, they'll all change their tune. And Cleveland? They'll be the punchline. NFL Films will do a documentary someday called The One That Got Away, and there'll be a whole 15-minute segment on how the Browns let Shedeur walk without ever giving him a real shot. There'll be dramatic music, black and white practice footage, interviews with former teammates saying things like, "We knew he was going to be special. It just wasn't the right environment." And fans will watch that episode with their head in their hands like it's a horror movie they already know the ending to. But you want to know the craziest part? The Browns could have avoided all of this. All they had to do was stop playing games. Give the kid the ball. Let him do what he was clearly ready to do. Build a system around him instead of boxing him out of it. But instead, they fumbled it. Art. And when you fumble Shedeur Sanders, you don't get the ball back. Because this isn't college. This isn't spring practice. This is the NFL. And when a player like Shedeur takes the reins in a city that actually values talent over politics, it's game over. He's not just playing for wins anymore. He's playing for legacy. And legacy starts with the comeback arc. Imagine it, Browns versus, insert new team here. Monday Night Football. National audience. Former team versus future legend. Shedeur takes the field, already up 2 touchdowns, mic'd up, calm as ever. He drops back, hits a 35-yard rope on a post route, crowd goes insane. Then the camera cuts to the Browns sideline. Stefanski staring at the field like he's aged 10 years overnight. That's not a game. That's a reckoning. So to Cleveland, you had your chance. To the team that signs him, don't mess it up. And to Shedeur Sanders? You did everything right. You showed up. You showed out. And now you're showing them exactly why you never needed their validation in the first place. You're still here? Good. Because the saga isn't over, not even close. We're past the smoke now. Past the passive-aggressive quotes. Past the awkward silence at press conferences where reporters ask Stefanski the one question he refuses to answer directly: do you regret how you handled Shedeur Sanders? You already know the answer. You just can't say it. Because if he admits it, if he even hints at the truth, that maybe, just maybe, the organization fumbled a generational quarterback talent like a kickoff return in a monsoon, he's done. The whole regime's done. And that's exactly why they're holding the line with white-knuckled desperation, pretending this is all just part of the plan. But you and I? We know better. This is not the plan. This is collapse, disguised as control. And while Cleveland scrambles to slap duct tape over a franchise-sized wound, Shedeur Sanders is sitting across the country, sharpening the edge of his brand, his body, and his playbook. He's not hiding. He's waiting. Waiting for the right system. The right coach. The right moment. Because here's the reality that people are only just starting to grasp. Shedeur didn't need Cleveland. Cleveland needed Shedeur. He was their fresh start. Their clean slate. Their bridge to a younger fan base, to relevancy, to an actual offensive identity that didn't reek of 2009. But instead of building with him, they buried him. And for what? To preserve a failing scheme. To keep veteran egos in power. To avoid headlines they didn't know how to manage. Spoiler alert. They got the headlines anyway. Just not the ones they wanted. Now, their entire quarterback room looks like a slow-motion car crash. Dylan Gabriel, benched. Zap, overextended. And whoever's under center next week is going to have the weight of the one who got away on their shoulders. Because even if Shedeur never plays another down for Cleveland, his presence, his absence, will haunt them.